We Ronnie's made it in.
Yes.
Ron Cook's made it in.
Just saw him walk by.
Yeah, he's going to do the show himself. Joe was not scheduled to work today.
Correct.
But it was in the balance as to if Ron was going to do it in his North Suburban palatial abode or if he was going to be in here doing it, and he has made it in. Did Ron follow up with you, producer Matt, and say, hey, thanks for the pointers on?
He didn't. No,
he just
he
sauntered
decided
in.
to go for it.
He's got a show to prep. He's got a couch to break. He's got things going on.
Yeah, so good on Ron for making it in. Happy for him. So there's all of that. Text us. Text Ron. Text everybody all day on our, oddly enough, our text line. Edgar Snyder and Associates reminds you to text responsibly at 412-928-9370. Here we go. Todd McShay, ESPN. He says on the flavor of the day, if you will, Malik Willis, this when compared to Mr. Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett is probably the odds-on favorite to be the first quarterback off the board, and I get it. You go back to Mac Jones a year ago, his final year, all the game reps that he had. But Pickett has come out this week, and we had a lot of rain yesterday in practice, and he's got the small hands. There's concern there, and you watch him throw in the rain, and he struggled. He did not control the ball the way you'd like to see from a first-round quarterback. With Malik Willis, he's just over 6 feet tall. He's coming from Liberty. It's not the level of competition that you would ideally like. And I think he's the most dynamic quarterback in terms of athleticism and ability to extend plays and make plays with his feet in this entire class. He also, without question, has the strongest arm of the quarterbacks. The ball just explodes off his hand. It's just like a flick of the wrist, and it's 40 yards down the field on a frozen rope. Clearly, on tape and down here in the Senior Bowl, that Malik Willis is the best quarterback in this class.
All right, let's couple some sound clips together. That one that you just heard on Malik Willis being the cream of the crop, according to McShay, and then something from October that Mike Tomlin said.
We get an opportunity to look at some trends in the game, some things that are going around in the game of football, offensively, defensively, and special teams. And so, I could, talk specifically about it. I spent a portion of my day last week looking at quarterback mobility and its impact in situational ball, possession down play, red zone, et cetera, as a trend. For example, different components of man-to-man on possession downs on the other side, in dime and so forth. And so, it's good to take a step back and not have to get focused in on one particular opponent or on yourself. And you could take more of a global perspective and look at some broad, sweeping discussions as it pertains to the game of football.
Mobile quarterback, one that can throw on the run, 6'1", 225. Malik Willis might be there, he might not be there. Same with Kenny Pickett, might be there, might not be there. You jumble this all together, and I have now decided. I had a preliminary decision about 2 months ago, and now I have my final decision. Right, I've made my final decision. I am there. Even if both of those guys are available, I can't do it at 20 if I'm the Steelers. I can't do it. It can't happen for me.
Neither Pickett nor Willis.
Nope, I would go with a lineman.
What if the linemen that you like are off the board? And let's say any other position that you
I think there's going to be a deeper pool of linemen both offensively and defensively that they won't all be off the board, and there'll be higher ranked linemen than those two guys when up against the quarterbacks. And I'm not just ranking the quarterbacks right now. Mm-hmm. I'm ranking them what potentially could be available next year and what could be available in free agency as well.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that line of thinking, that logic of, hey, let's wait because this isn't a quarterback-rich draft as far as high-end talent goes, right? I have no problem with that philosophy. I guess what I keep coming back to is, well, what if? What if everything that works for you that you might have a first-round grade on, whether it's corner, linebacker, safety, whatever it may be, you get to 20th, and that stuff's off the board, or you feel like there's no first-round guy there available at any of those positions, the big elite offensive linemen, Cross and Linderbaum, and those guys are off the board, and you get there, and it's like, my God, the only thing left are the quarterbacks.
No, see, that wouldn't be the case for me. Because, again, I think that you can take I don't want to say second tier, but you can take a fifth or sixth or seventh rated offensive or defensive lineman, so to speak, and they have an opportunity and a potential to help this organization 5, 6, 7 years down the road. And I just don't think these are quarterbacks, either one of them, that'll be your starter in 6 years.
And that's fair. And again, if that's the philosophy, and again, I'm not necessarily out on that logic. Right. I'm still trying to decide if I fully embrace it and throw my arms around it the way you have, or because if I'm at that point where I'm at 20, right, and everything's off the board that I had a first-round grade on at a position other than quarterback, well, then that's the opportunity where I'd like to see them say, well, we're moving back then. Like, I have no problem. Last year, when the Steelers drafted where they did, I would have been upset had they moved back, because even though there would have been linemen there available had they moved back, they would have left Najee Harris on the board and he would have ended up somewhere else, and I really like Najee Harris. I don't think there's a quarterback in this draft that you can attach yourself to enough to be like, well, if that guy's there at 20, we can't take the risk that we're going to move back and lose out on him. We got to take him. I think in that instance, you've got to say, well, no, we're moving back. I don't think there's a quarterback.
I
maybe a couple of linemen.
Stand pat and you take at 20 and you take the best available lineman at 20 on either side of the ball. That's right, because I don't think you can do anything from the skill position standpoint, especially offensively. Well, you can't do anything offensively at the skill position standpoint unless you start to insulate these lines. You can't build for the future.
Oh, the line. Look, the defensive line is not getting any younger. You don't know what's up with Tuitt.
Tuitt's house is for sale. You know,
right.
And here's the other thing that people aren't. They're just saying Tuitt's house is for sale. Okay, let me give you some intel as to this that someone told me at the gym yesterday that lives in the neighborhood. This is the house that Tuitt just built a year and a half ago. 2 years. This isn't the one. He has had now 2 houses in the same school district, right? This is one that he recently just moved into. So it's like, all right, why would he go to the painstaking measures of 18 months ago, building a house, moving in, doing all that stuff, and now putting it up for sale right now? I'm working under the impression Stephon Tuitt ain't never going to play a game for the Pittsburgh Steelers again.
And I think they have to progress through the offseason at this point as if Stephon Tuitt will not be back. If he ends up coming back, bonus. Wonderful. But you're right. The defensive line needs work. The offensive line we know needs work. I think they could do some of that in free agency, to be quite honest, before they ever get to the draft, especially if they want a veteran who's established and can maybe anchor things for some of those young guys on the line. But I guess when it comes back down to it, because we started talking about Malik Willis, and it's really been all about Willis and Pickett at the Senior Bowl practices so far this week. There are other guys there, but those two have been the focus. It seems like everybody covering the Steelers has said those are the two they're keeping the closest eye on, right?
Right.
I kind of liken it to this. And we had the Steve Palazzolo comp on Malik Willis in Breakfast Bites about 45 minutes ago, where he said Sam Munson of PFF compares him to Cordell, right? That's his comp.
Yes.
Okay. I think it's more like this. If I get to 20 and I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers and I'm just laying out the scenario where all the linemen I like as first-rounders are off the board, okay? They're all off the board, and any other first-round guys that I like, they're off the board. Corners are off the board.
Inside backers?
Maybe that inside backer from Georgia, right? Dean. They're all off the board, right? And I get there and really, like I said before, the only thing left, they look around the room, they go, the only thing left we have a first-round grade on are the quarterbacks, guys. We got to take one of these two. We've talked about this for weeks and months now. Let's make a final decision. I'm sure they'd make this decision before the pick came up, but Pickett or Willis. And I think the decision then comes down to, and I'll paint these two different scenarios because I think they exist within the division.
Can I stop for 1 minute, though, and throw something in there?
Okay.
Are we all under the assumption that the Steelers have a first-round grade on Kenny Pickett?
Oh, that is an assumption.
You know what I mean? Because we're in Pittsburgh,
they
because
might
he's
not.
Pitt's quarterback?
Yeah.
Like,
they might look at it like Todd McShay said earlier and be like, man, you see him in the rain and his tiny hands and he couldn't.
I love Kenny Pickett,
right.
And I do think he's going to be a good NFL player. But one of the working assumptions we're basing a lot of things off of in this town when we marry Steelers and Kenny Pickett is that the people scouting for the Pittsburgh Steelers have Kenny Pickett assessed as a first-round guy.
Right, they might not. There are mock drafts where Kenny Pickett doesn't go in the first round. Now there are mock drafts where Kenny Pickett goes in the top 10. That's just
right.
That gives you an idea of the spectrum of how these quarterbacks, in particular this year, are being graded. And I think that is an assumption. But let's for the sake of sports talk radio and what we do, let's make that assumption that they get to 20 and Willis and Pickett are both there and they've got a first-round grade on each of them. I think you've got to look at it thusly. Malik Willis, and we've talked about this before as far as potential, low floor, high ceiling. Could be super dynamic. Could be a boom or bust. Could be Lamar Jackson. Could be out of the league in 2 years. Kenny Pickett. higher floor, maybe lower ceiling, safer, more sure bet. And I think when you look at comparisons within the division, kind of like a Joe Burrow light, for lack of a better way to put it. Stands in the pocket, but can also move a little bit and buy himself a couple extra seconds here and there. And I think that's the decision. Do you want the guy who can stand and deliver? And yeah, he can move around a little bit, but stand and deliver. May not have quite as high a ceiling, but has a higher floor. Or do you want the guy who's more boom or bust and isn't your traditional stand in the pocket quarterback, is going to be running around, maybe making explosive plays happen with his legs as much as with his arm? And I think that's a fascinating decision that they have to make over the next 2.5 months.
I agree with you. And I wouldn't take either. I would take the offensive lineman, and maybe I would take the best available defensive lineman if Tuitt wasn't coming back. I would punt on the whole situation, thinking I could get much better value next year from a quarterback.
Don't get me wrong. If you have a first-round grade on somebody at a position of need, and they have lots of positions of need, O-line, D-line, inside backer, strong safety, corner, all those, by all means, take that. And I can get on board with that guy's going to step right in and start for us and be a part of helping us shore everything up, build the framework around the quarterback, which we will find is our last piece, is the centerpiece that we plug in and give it a twist like that little thing in Iron Man's chest, and bang, everything takes off from there.
Because you talk about the quarterbacks for next draft, and there's also X factors. No one thought we'd be talking about Kenny Pickett as a first-round guy.
No.
Last year at this, it's not a stretch to think that Pitt's next quarterback could be better than Pitt's last quarterback. That's not a stretch.
No.
From an NFL developmental standpoint.
Right.
I just don't see either one of those guys solving the long-term quarterback problem. I don't. It's incredible. It's an incredible,
because it's a
now if they go somewhere else and are great, and the Steelers don't pick them and they were available,
they'll hear about it for the next 15
all over
years.
Again.
Yep.
I agree with you. There is that risk.
Yeah.
Tons of risk. Matt, what were you doing back there? I heard you type. Were you talking to Ron, by the way?
Yeah, I was.
What happened?
Ron checked back in because I texted him because one of our other employees here, one of our bosses actually, came from Cranberry, which is where Ron was coming from. So I let him know what the report was from him and texted him, and he came in and said, "Hey, appreciate the text."
Ronnie's mellowed. He has mellowed. Yeah. I like that. He has a nice relationship with you, though.
Yeah.
Does he know your name? Does he know that your name is? Okay.
Yes, he does.
I didn't know. I did not know. Well, you guys don't cross paths all the time.
I know.
Anyway,